All right, so we're going to get started today with 1.3, which is subtracting integers. So our learning target for today is I will be able to find the difference of integers. So please make sure that at this time you have your math composition notebook out. You are titling the page 1.3, subtracting integers, and you also write the learning target down so we know the goal of this session. All right, let's get started. Just a reminder, you can pause the video whenever you need in order to write the notes and stay up to date with everything. Okay, so the first key idea, we're going to be learning about subtracting integers. So if we come down here, it says to subtract an integer, we're going to add its opposite. So just a reminder for what opposites are. So we learned about this in, I believe, 1.2, which was adding integers. And opposites are, let's say, 4 and negative 4. Those are opposites. 5 and negative 5. All right, so they are exactly the same distance from 0 on both sides. So if you look here, let's say we're trying to do 3 minus 4 in this example. Okay, so you can kind of look at the number line and let's go step by step. So first, they're starting at 3. So that's why you see here, I'll highlight it for you. You see here that they go from 0 to 3, okay? So that's how they get to 3. Then they're subtracting 4. Well, if we're subtracting, we always go left on the number line. So they went back 4, which then took them to negative 1, okay? So let's say we used the way that they tell us to use, which is to subtract an integer, add its opposite. So they set that up here. You would do 3, then rather than writing a minus sign, you would write an addition sign. And the opposite of 4 is negative 4. So you're adding its opposite. So it would be 3 plus negative 4. Okay? That also gives you negative 1. So those are some different ways to think of it. You can kind of look at this diagram, pause it, and understand it for yourself. All right, so let's take a peek at the first example. So this one says find 3 minus 12. So again, remember our steps. To subtract integers, we need to add its opposite. So I'm going to write here 3 plus, because remember, we're adding its opposite. The opposite of 12 is, think about it, what's the opposite of 12? It's going to be negative 12. So we're adding the opposite. So we're going to do 3 plus negative 12. All right? From there, you have a couple different options. I'm going to show you how we could use a number line for this. So I'm going to draw a number line, and I'm going to kind of do what that first example did. So let's say here's 0, here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. Then I'm going to go down, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7. We might need to extend this. Negative 8, negative 9. Okay, so I'm going to use my highlighter to show you how we're going to do this. So to get to the 3, we're going to go from the 0 all the way to the 3. Okay, and we get to positive 3. So then if we're adding negative 12, that means I know that the negatives are always on the left side. So we have negatives on the left side, positives on the right side. Therefore, I'm going to have to travel to the left 12 units. So here we go. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This brings me to negative 9. So just by using a number line, we can see that 3 plus negative 12 is going to give us negative 9. All right. We also could go back and do it the way that we learned in 1.2, which is take the absolute value of both of these numbers, and we're going to subtract the lesser absolute value from the greater absolute value, and then we're going to take the sign of the greater absolute value. So for example, take the absolute value of 3, that equals 3. Take the absolute value of negative 12, that equals positive 12. Then we're subtracting the lesser absolute value from the greater. So this is the lesser, this is the greater. So we would do 12 minus 3. That gives me 9. But you need to remember our last step. We need to take the sign of the greater absolute value. Remember, this is the greater absolute value, and if I look here, it has a negative sign in front of it, which means our answer has to have a negative in front of it. So do you see how I got the answer doing it multiple different ways? So those are 2 different options that you can do to be successful on your homework. Okay, now let's look at example B. Find negative 8 minus negative 13. Okay, let's do the step that it tells us to do. To subtract integers, we need to add its opposite. So I'm going to go negative 8, replace the subtraction sign with an addition sign, and then I'm going to add the opposite of negative 13. And let's think. The opposite of negative 13 is going to be a positive 13. All right? So I add a positive 13. Okay? From there, we have negative 8 plus 13. Well, adding integers, let's go back and do the same thing. Take the absolute value of both numbers. Absolute value of negative 8 is 8. Absolute value of 13 is 13. Subtract the lesser absolute value, which is 8, from the greater absolute value. So we're going to do 13 minus 8. That is going to give me 5. Then we need to take the sign of the greater absolute value. The greater absolute value was 13. There's no negative sign, which means it's positive. Therefore, I leave this 5 positive, and that is my answer. All right? So negative 8 plus 13 is 5. You could also do this with a number line if you would like. Again, there's multiple different ways to do these things. That's why I love math. So I'm going to teach you another trick. If you're subtracting integers and you see a subtraction sign like this and a negative sign like this, here's a little trick you can do. You can combine that line and make it an addition sign. Okay? Always, always, always. If you're subtracting a negative, essentially you're going to add it. So if you look right here, that's essentially what our rule told us to do, right? We did negative 8 plus 13. So let's go down here to example C, and we're going to try that. So find 5 minus negative 4. Well, I know if I'm adding its opposite, essentially it's going to be 5 plus the opposite of negative 4 is 4. So it's just going to be 4. But I could also just look at this. I see a subtraction sign and a negative sign. Combine them together, make it an addition sign, and then I know that it's 5 plus 4. All right? And 5 plus 4, I think we all know what that is. That's going to give me 9. All right? So that's a little trick. If you have a subtraction sign right here and a negative sign right here, essentially they're always going to turn into a positive symbol. And that is what our rule tells us as well. All right, so right now I would like you to pause the screen and I would like you to try 1 through 3 on your own. When you have completed 1 through 3 on your own, you can resume the video and check your answers. So pause your video and go do that now, please. All right, you should have done 1 through 3. So your answer should be 8 minus 3. That would give you 5. 9 minus 17. That would give you a negative 8. And negative 3 minus 3, that would give you a negative 6. So be careful with this one. A lot of people might mistake that one. Got to make sure that you notice it's subtracting 3. So you're already in debt $3, and now you're taking away $3 more. So it's not going to be 0. Got to pay attention to the subtraction sign. All right, nice job. So now we are going to try 3 numbers. So the trick with 3 numbers is to start off, we're only going to pay attention to the first 2, okay? So right off the bat, we're only going to pay attention to these. We will deal with the minus 14 later, okay? So I'm going to go down and I'm going to do my rule, which is add its opposite. So this turns into an addition sign. The opposite of negative 12 is a positive 12, okay? Therefore, I get negative 7 plus 12. If we do our rules for adding integers with different signs, we take the absolute value of both. That will give me 7. Take the absolute value of 12. That gives me 12. Oops. Oh no. Okay. Sorry about that. A little technical difficulty there. All right. So that'll give me 12. All right, so this is the lesser absolute value, and this is the greater absolute value. So remember, we subtract the lesser absolute value from the greater absolute value. So 12 minus 7, that is going to give me 5. And then we need to take the sign of the greater absolute value, which the greater absolute value is 12, and it looks like that was already positive. So we are going to leave it as 5. Okay, so that is our first step. But then remember, we still have to subtract the 14. So this whole thing right here, the first part, equals 5. We know that equals 5. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite it, and it's going to be 5 minus 14. We're going to add this piece to it, okay? So 5 minus 14. Well, let's do the same thing. To subtract integers, add its opposite. So this is going to be 5 plus the opposite of 14 is going to be negative 14, okay? So right now we have 5 plus negative 14. Again, we're going to do the same steps that we did. I'm going to show my work right here in the left-hand corner. Take the absolute value of both numbers, that equals 5. Take the absolute value of negative 14, that equals 14. This is the lesser absolute value. This is the greater absolute value. And we're going to do 14 minus 5. That is going to give me 9. Then again, you need to take the sign of the greater absolute value. If I look here, the sign is negative. Therefore, I need to put a negative sign in front of this 9. So if I go back up here, I know that 5 minus 14, or 5 plus negative 14, is going to give me negative 9. So the answer to this full problem is going to be negative 9. All right, so right now I would like you to try number 7 and number 8 on your own, please. Once you finish doing these two, you may unpause the video and then come back and check your answers. So pause your video right now and try those on your own. All right, you should have gotten negative 33, and you should have gotten another negative 33. So both of them should have equaled negative 33. All right. So that concludes our lesson for 1.3. Make sure you have these notes in your math composition notebook, and we will work on the assignment in class tomorrow. Nice job.